Hello everyone. So we're back for episode 2 of the ServiceNow ITSM Basics. We're going to be covering incidents today, and I hope everyone's fine and you've all got your developer instance, which I recommended that you got in episode 1. That's if you want to follow along in this video. So the objectives of today are to go over a few things, which are what is an incident, why are they important in ServiceNow, creating an actual incident in ServiceNow, the management of an incident, and then an overview of what we've covered, which we'll go over at the end. So, an incident. The ITIL definition of an incident is defined as an unplanned interruption or reduction in quality of an IT service. Now, what does that mean to you? My laptop's broken. My monitor keeps turning off. Outlook won't send emails. You know, anything which you can imagine an end user complaining about would be classed as an incident if it's broken. Not something like, can I have a new laptop? Not something like, just to inform you I'm upgrading the operating system. They are not incidents. Incidents are only things that are causing a temporary, unplanned interruption or disruption in quality of an IT service. Or reduction in quality of an IT service. So the reason they're important in real life is because obviously nothing would get fixed without them. But in real life, you don't know who deals with them. How do we know when they're fixed? Does the customer know? Does the analyst know if the customer's achieved success with the fix that the analyst has provided? Now, you can't. There is ways of knowing this. You know, you've got Excel spreadsheets, you've got notebooks, but an ITSM tool is where it's really useful, and ServiceNow can help us massively with this task. So, why are incidents important in ServiceNow? Well, you can track incidents in real time in the business with ServiceNow. You can see whether the laptop's been fixed. You can see the most recent update on your incident record. You can see if the analyst is currently working on that incident, whether it's in progress or not. It can provide an up-to-date account of the incident to the end user, to the analyst manager, or to the end user's manager. This is all really, really important for service management, because if my laptop's broken and it's preventing me from doing my job, my manager might not believe me. But if they can see an incident record of the analyst actually tracking that and working on it, then they will believe you, and then you won't get told off for doing the work. So, questions can also be asked of the incident using telephony. A customer can email in and it'll post that in the incident. A customer can go on to ServiceNow and ask their own questions. They're all viable options, and that's why it's extremely useful for analyst and end user interactions. It's especially useful when you're on a follow the sun service desk or a 24/7 service desk, where a customer can always be talking to an analyst at any one time, and it's constantly being worked on. And in terms of creation of an incident, so they can be created via an email, via a telephone call, or they can be triggered by something called an API call. Now, for the purposes of this series, we're not going to be delving anywhere near API calls, but we will be going into it in future on this channel. So if you're planning on getting to a developer status or a system administrator status, there will be further episodes down the line where we do discuss this, but for the purposes of this video, we're not going to be going into that. So, that is the final slide, so we don't need to go into that one just yet. Let's do some real-world exercises in ServiceNow. So, in ServiceNow, you can see several things on the front of your page here. Now, there's a couple of ways you can log a new incident. The easiest one would just to be in the filter navigator on the top left hand side, would just to be typing incident. You don't want this one, you don't want that one, and you can see this incident drop down here. You can see all of these beautiful tabs. Now, incidents, you can see what's assigned to you by clicking this one. Any open incidents that haven't been assigned to a person to work on, all of your resolved incidents, or just all incidents resolved, open, in progress, whatever. You can see an overview, and you can also see a map of your critical incidents. Now, this one might be quite cool to show you. So this one will actually plot where your major incidents have happened. So if you're in a worldwide service desk, you can see, okay, Denmark, is that Denmark? No, it's not. It's Germany. I didn't see the border just there. Germany, in Hamburg, we've got an incident here, and in this you can actually view what the incident is, what's actually happened in Hamburg to cause this incident. They need help with remedy. Can we configure the UI? So that would be the critical incident in Hamburg at this time. But that was just a cool little feature I thought I'd show you. So, for the purposes of this video, if you're following along and you've got your own developer instance, what we're going to do for the very first thing, we're going to impersonate a user. Now, the user we're going to impersonate is ITIL or user ITIL. This is because they've got the correct roles to be creating incidents. Now, to create an incident, the analyst creating them will need an ITIL license. Now, an ITIL license is the default license or role that comes with the ITSM module, which you get installed with ServiceNow. These are a monthly recurring cost for licenses, but this, if your company's got ITSM, this has all been discussed with your sales associate, so I don't need to go into that. The costs do vary, but once again, sales associate. So, the user ITIL, he wants to create a new incident. So in the same breath, we're going to type an incident again, and you can see all of the same stuff we could before when we were as a system administrator, and you can see this stuff here. Now, what's really cool about ServiceNow in the filter navigator is that there's a couple of weird little ways that you can search for things. I'm going to show you one now, just because it might confuse you, it might not be. So if I type in NT, this will show you anything which ends in NT or contains NT or starts with. So if I put ENT, you can see that it's just going to find incidents. So if you don't want to type out incidents all the time, you can just type ENT. And you get the same top 3 menus here as if you were to type out the full word. So it's quite cool. It's a little bit weird because how would you get a self-service? You might want to just type ICE and then you get self-service. So it's sometimes actually thinking about the last few letters is a little bit more difficult than actually just typing out the word incident like that whilst I'm looking at the camera, for example. So, incident. We've got the same column here. Now, what we want to do is we want to click Create New. Because the first part of this is we're going to create a new incident, and I'm going to talk you through how you would create an incident, why you would create an incident, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. For the purposes of this, and what I advise that you do as well, because we will be coming back to incidents quite frequently, is you see this star, favorite it, and then if you click the star on the top here, you can see that you've added incidents. Now, this will open this drop-down menu, which is actually quite a nice little feature. Now, if I click the pencil down here, you can customize your favorites. So you don't have to have the same favorites as me. Pardon me. You can make them all blue. You can make them all red. I'm going to have mine as a nice little teal color. And then once you're done, you can click done. You can also rename it as well. And if you click the pencil, you can also rearrange the order that they're filtered in. So we're going to create a new incident. So if you click create new on this incident dropdown, we're going to have a caller. Now, a caller is exactly what you think it might be. It might be the person ringing up. But a caller is also the person who has triggered a API call or sent an email in for an incident. That is also a caller. It's not distinctly a person who uses the telephone to get in touch with you to create an incident. So for the purposes of this one, we're going to use Able Tutor. He is the generic John Doe go-to account for when you want to do tests in ServiceNow. And we are going to say that Able Tutor has a problem with his monitor. Now, you might be thinking, why have we just jumped straight to the short description? Because the short description, once this is filled in, it allows you to categorize more accurately and try and identify the categorization that you might need. It might help you with the configuration items as well. So, Able Tutor's got a problem. Now, his problem is the keyboard on his MacBook Pro isn't working. So, keyboard on MacBook Pro not working. It doesn't like typing the P key. It won't type the P key. Now, imagine Able Tutor telling you this whilst on the telephone. So this isn't Able Tutor writing this. I am the analyst and I'm doing this whilst also receiving communication from Able Tutor. So the contact type here, I would put fun because he's ringing me on the telephone. Now you can see here, you've got the related search results. Now what this does is it reads the short description and then matches anything that you might have in the system. Whether it be knowledge and catalog items, whether it be knowledge articles, catalog items, questions, and pinned articles. We might want to see if we can identify any knowledge articles in our knowledge base, which might help us with a broken MacBook Pro keyboard. Unfortunately, we don't have any, so the related search result here is now useless. Okay, so we then want to start thinking about the categorization of the incident. Now, if it's a MacBook Pro and it's a keyboard, it's not necessarily which one would you say it would be here? I mean, I would personally say it would be a hardware incident because it's not software. I mean, it could be, but it's not because I made it. It could be an inquiry or help. It could be a network. It could be database. Now, if you are ever in the situation where you could be like, well, it could be a software incident, then choose what you think it is more accurate towards. There's no right or wrong answer, really. It's just an audit trail which you're trying to give the best information possible. So choose hardware. And then you can see here you've got a list of options. Now, we know his problems with his keyboard, so that's fine. Now, service and configuration item. Now, service, you don't really need to care about. At this moment in time, you will need to care about it, obviously. But a service is a thing which provides, like Outlook servers or, Outlook here or email servers or Windows Mobile. If all the Windows Mobiles have released an update and it's just broken them all, is that the service that's impacted? No, it's not, because a MacBook Pro isn't a service. It is, on the other hand, a configuration item. Now, configuration items are entirely different beasts. So, my mobile phone is a configuration item. You could, if you really, really want to be serious about it, you can say a pen is a configuration item. Obviously, a mouse configuration item, definitely. But what we want to do here is we want to find Abel Tutor's MacBook Pro and give him the correct configuration item. So we can say, look, this MacBook Pro has actually got a problem with it at this moment in time. So, let's just open this list again because I seem to lose it. So we want to say, where is Abel Tutor's configuration items? Now to do this, you want to click this filter here. Now, in the assign to, you can say, what are my configuration items? What are the configurations items assigned to me? Do I have a laptop assigned to me? Do I have a keyboard assigned to me? So let's find out. Abel Tutor. In here. If you click run, that will run the filter on the server. And you can see that Abel Tutor's got a MacBook Pro. So, we choose the MacBook Pro. We now know that this configuration item has an incident attached to it where it says the keyboard on the MacBook Pro is not working because it will not type the P key. You can also click this I here and it'll give you some more information about the model of the MacBook Pro. It'll give you a serial number and the company that the MacBook Pro belongs to. And this circumstance is Acme, South America. You can also click this, which is the dependency view. Now, the dependency view shows exactly what it says in the tin, really, dependencies. But let's wait for the map to load and we can sort of go from there. So, there won't be many dependencies for a MacBook Pro because nothing is dependent on the MacBook Pro working, and the MacBook Pro doesn't have any dependencies, like the keyboard, my monitor, my external monitor won't stop working if my MacBook stops working, for example. But this is what you would see in the dependency view. And then you can see the related stuff to it. We'll go into the dependency view a little bit later on in a future episode because it's not really part of, it's not an integral part of the form on the logging of an incident. I'm now also going to hide the side panel, and you can do this by clicking the arrow in the bottom left of your screen. I'm just making sure that it's in my recording window. So, we then want to prioritize the incident. Now, prioritization, you can see that the actual priority here is read-only. What you do want to do is change the impact and the urgency of the incident, and this will therefore change the priority. Now, we know that we're not in the planning stage because we're going to be working on this incident, and the impact of somebody not being able to do their job, I would say that's medium. How urgently do we need this person to be able to do their job again? Let's picture that he's a CEO. We need him to be able to do his job again immediately. So the impact medium because there's only one person that's able to do the job, but the urgency for this is incredibly high. So therefore your priority is automatically set to 2. Now, if you need a little bit more of an explanation around priority, I can't tell you about the data lookup table from the top of my head, but you'll notice that this is nice and highlighted. And what this means is you can go into the incident priority and data lookup rules, which allows you to look for the impact and the urgency, which leads you to the correct priority. Now, this is something which is incredibly useful, and I recommend you read through this alongside doing this video. I'm not going to go through it because the documentation is there, and it is one of the least complex pieces of documentation on the ServiceNow developer or product documentation portal. So I would take a look at it if you get the chance, or if you're confused about it. If you're not, that's fine. Just prioritize it as you see fit. So then what we want to do is we want to give it an assignment group. Now, a person might be in an assignment group. So the service desk might have Abel Tutor as an assignee. user ITIL, as in my user account here, does not have an assignment group, so we're not going to put them in one. But we are going to say that user ITIL is the assigned to, because user ITIL will be doing the work. Okay? So that is what that means. So the description is you need to put in something, a little bit more information than the short description about the incident. Now for the purposes of this, and so you don't hear my keyboard smashing, I'm going to just quickly mute my microphone and type out a description for you. So you can see that the keyboard has stopped working. It's been broken since Friday last week, and you can contact Able Tutor on 122 122 122. He's also tried nothing else to fix the problem, which generally seems to be the case with end users. So for the initial logging of an incident, we're actually pretty much done. You can now submit this incident, which is what we're going to do. But for the purpose of this, we're going to save the incident instead. Now, submit will create the record and then put you back to the previous page you're on. Whereas if you right-click this form header here and click save, it'll keep you on the same form, which is where we want to be. Cool. So that'll save eventually. Eventually. There we go. So the incident saved. It took 16 seconds. Somehow. Okay. So you can see down in the activities here, we can see that we've created the incident. And it'll say what user ITIL has done. He's assigned it to user ITIL. He's assigned the MacBook Pro 15-inch to it. He's got an impact of 2, which is medium. He's got an incident state, which is in progress. And it's opened by user ITIL, which is, the user I'm currently in. And priority 2 is high as well. Now, we've got no related records. So related records are, you can assign it to a problem. In the first episode I say if there's a massive outage and you've got multiple incidents, you might want to assign that to a problem. There you go. That's where you put the problem number. You can also do it in the problem as well, so there's 2 ways of doing it. And the same goes to a change request. So if I want to update my MacBook Pro's operating system, I can assign it to that specific change request. But we'll go into that in a later video. Pardon me. And has the incident been caused by a change? Now this is an important one, because remember how I said if a change breaks, what do? If it's been recorded in the system, you say it's been caused by that change, because that's the correct way of doing things. That's best practice. But we don't need to worry about related records yet, because we will come to it in a different video. So let's just refer back to the slides here. On the first slide, we've created an incident. Now what we need to do is talk about managing the incident, which is what we're going to do. So we've got the incident and we know, okay, Able Tutor, yeah, keyboard's not working. Cool. So if I want to open the MacBook Pro in a separate window, which is fine, you can't see that it's got any incidents attached to it. Now, I'll show you how you can see this quite quickly. If you click the dashboard in the top left here, you might be able to see if it's got any incidents. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so we've got no completeness stuff, we've got no relationship stuff. Ignore all this for now. But if you see this down here, you can see incident. We've got one incident assigned to this MacBook. And the incident is the keyboard on the MacBook Pro is not working because it won't type the P key. Oh, so I want to manage this incident now. So I can click the I key, and it'll take me back into this exact same incident record. Now, there is a couple of cool things you can do from here. So, like before when I said I talked you through this, you can now click Assign to Me. Now, as user ITIL, because I put myself in the Assign to box, I am now the Assign to user. And this is my workload. So, that's just one thing I wanted to show you. If there's any incidents that have been opened but not assigned to anybody, this is where they'll appear, in the Open Unassigned window. But because I've now got an incident assigned to me, that is my priority, that is my piece of work, we're going to fix it. So, the state automatically defaults to in progress when it's assigned to a user, which is fine because, the work should be in progress. Now, let's just say I have tried a fix. I've tried to fix the MacBook Pro keyboard. Let's just say I've done it remotely by doing a software update, or I've sent them a replacement keyboard with instructions on how to fit it. Good luck. I want to then say to the user, I've done this for you. I've fix this, or I've sent you the correct things to do to fix this. So what would you choose? Would you choose to update the work notes, or would you choose to update the additional comments? Now, additional comments brackets customer visible. What this means is if you update the additional comments, an email will, or a notification of some kind will be sent to the end user with exactly what you've said in the additional comments. Also, they will also be able to see it in the internal system. If you then type something in here like, I have sent the keyboard replacement, awaiting feedback, and then I'll say, hello, Abel, I've sent the replacement. Has this worked? Thanks, user ITIL. So, this yellow comment here won't be visible to the end user in the self-service portal, and it won't send any notification. This one is purely for an audit trail for the analysts and the internal analysts of ServiceNow and the people who do the work. The grey comments are visible to the end users. These are visible to the person that has rang up about the incident. This is an update that you want them to see. That is all this means. Now, to get both of these boxes up, on top of each other, you can click this button here, which is showing the journal fields. If you just want one, you can alternate it by using the checkbox, and that will show an alternate journal field. I prefer having two because that means I can just choose which one I want to type in, and that works. Now, if you do want the customer to see what you've put in this yellow comments, that's absolutely fine. What you then need to do is add them to a work notes list. To add somebody to a work notes list, what you need to do is click the padlock, and then you can type in Able Tutor. He will then receive an email with any update you've made to the work notes list. It will still not be visible in the self-service portal, so keep that one in mind. For the watch list, it will send you any additional comments, customer visible comments. So if you want Able Tutor to receive an email with the additional comments and the work notes, you want to have them in both of them. But you don't need Able in the additional comments for both of them, because the customer visible comments will always go to Able, so you do not need him in the watch list. If you need Able to see the yellow comments, you need him in the work notes list. But if I wanted Able Tutor's line manager, and let's just say Abraham Lincoln, to receive the additional comments as well as Able, you can add him in. And that's how that works. So then I can update this and I can say, okay, I'm going to place this incident on hold because I'm awaiting an update from the caller. So you would update your incident. I don't need an additional comment. Oh, I should have an additional comment. Updated the incident, and Able will be able to see this as well. So you can see that it's now taking me back out of it because I pressed the update button, not the save button. But to refer back to my incident, all I click is incident assigned to me, and there's the incident. You can now see that the incident is in the state of awaiting, it's on hold. And it's on hold because it's awaiting an update from the caller to say, can you confirm whether the incident has been fixed, that kind of thing. Now, I'll quickly talk about state for a second, so you can see that state's got new, in progress, on hold, resolved, closed, and cancelled. These are all different points of the life cycle of an incident. So you can see that we've already had a few points of the life cycle. At the first start, when we first created the incident, it was new. Because it was assigned to somebody, it was then put to in progress. The work was in progress. The work has now been completed, and we are on hold awaiting the user. So we're at the middle of the incident's life cycle now. So at this point, you're thinking, well, what do we do? What can we do as an analyst? Well, nothing. You can't do anything. You need to wait for the customer to get back to you. So how do we see what the customer would be seeing? How can I show you this? I'm going to demonstrate this to you. So the same way that we impersonated user ITIL before, you can click impersonate user again and choose Able Tutor. Now in the URL bar, actually we'll not do the URL bar version, self-service, you can click homepage, and that'll take you to the self-service homepage. You can see that you've got your open instance. Now this isn't the prettiest way of viewing the self-service portal, but what we will do is we'll go into the address bar. After the / we will put SP. In SP, this will then take you to the self-service portal, which is actually really cool. Because in the self-service portal, you can see, you can make a request, you can view some knowledge articles in the knowledge base, you can get help if you need some help on any, default created items on your system. I don't actually know if you can see your incidents in the default one, which is absolutely fine if you can't. But we will take a look into this in the near future. So, let's have a look at profile here. Let me just make sure that we definitely cannot see this. That's fine. I don't think we can. So that's fine. We'll have to go back to the old view, the boring view, which is, not as good. But we will do that. So give me 1 second here, and we'll go back to the self-service page. So I can see that as Able Tutor, as the customer, my open incidents are here. So I want to go, I want to see my open incident. Oh, okay. So I can see that it's on hold, and it's awaiting my input. And user ITIL, the guy who has been working on my incident, has said, I've sent the replacement as it works. So I can see here a limited version of what user ITIL could see. And this is because I'm the customer. I do not have the required license to create incidents. User ITIL does. What I can do as a customer, though, is if I think user ITIL has fixed my issue, I can click resolve, which I think he has. I think the keyboard that he sent me as a replacement, I think it works. So it will resolve the incident. Oh, incident has been resolved. So I can go into this now. And I can say, oh, okay, I can see that Able Tutor has resolved it, and I am still Able Tutor. And if I am 100% that this keyboard has been fixed, I can close it. Once the incident has been closed, both as an end user and as an analyst, I will not be able to reopen this incident ever again or make any changes to the record. If I don't think it's closed, if it worked for maybe a day and then the P key stopped working again, you'd probably have to look into water damage or something like that. But you can then reopen the incident. We're not going to do it for the purpose of this video because it doesn't add any extra value. But by clicking this, it will reopen the incident. So, I'm going to end the impersonation of Able Tutor. I'm then going to impersonate user ITIL again. And once we're back into user ITIL, we can see assigned to me because it just wants active incidents, which I'll explain in just a second. So I can see that Able Tutor has resolved the incident, resolution code, it's been closed or resolved by the caller, the resolution notes, closed by the caller, and you can see this in here. So when an incident is resolved or closed, you can choose any of these resolution codes. So if I fix it and I knew I fixed it, I could click solved permanently. If I solved it remotely by accessing their machine from a different location, I can say solve remotely. If I can't solve it, it's not solved. Or if the caller themselves resolve the incident, that's what it defaults to with these default resolution notes. As a manager, I can then view the incident record and I can say, oh, okay, he sent the replacement, has this worked, and Able Tutor's closed the incident down. Now, I can make it closed here, which I will do in a second. But what I want to do is I want to show you this. So this is the incidents that were assigned to me. You may be thinking, well, it's resolved. So do I really want to see all of my closed incidents? The answer is yes, because active is still true. Now, when an incident is closed, active becomes false. When active is false, you won't see it and you're assigned to you. But if the customer reopens that incident, or if you need to reopen that incident, you've got it active. Now, the default time that it's active in ServiceNow is 3 working days. This can be changed by default if you've got the correct settings, which we will go through in a later episode of system administration. So, closed. I'm going to close this incident now because I'm 100% confident that I've fixed the issue. So I click update, and you can see that my incident is no longer active, so therefore the incident is no longer assigned to me. So, let's refer back to the slides. If we can. We're on a wrong slide at the minute. Cool. So, for this video, we went over what is an incident, why is the incident important in ServiceNow, we've created an incident, and we've managed it. We've managed it from its absolute starting point to its absolute final endpoint. And this step, the final step, your overview, is what I've just discussed. So, for an overview, we discussed the incident lifecycle, what they are, why they're important, and how to create and manage them in ServiceNow. There is a lot more to know about incidents, but they will be covered in separate episodes, such as attaching problems. We'll discuss that in the problem episode. Attaching requests, we'll discuss that in the request episode. And same with changes. But in terms of logging an incident, managing an incident, and closing an incident down, this is what this episode is going to be discussing, or has discussed for you. And everything else will come at a later date. Okay? So, thank you very much for watching. If you've got any feedback, I'm new to YouTube, so if you do have any feedback, I would appreciate it in a comment or something like that. If you like the video, please like the video. And if you're a fan of the series, or if I'm helping you out, feel free to subscribe. There'll be plenty of more stuff coming in the future. So if you're planning on progressing from an absolute basic to a developer, I'm your man, and subscribe to my channel. Okay? Cool. Thank you very much. Goodbye.